he came in there and said CNN is completely biased to the left. They're lefties. They're completely against me. And my take on it was, in the beginning, he was wrong. CNN wasn't that way. I used to watch CNN all the time when I was at Fox. When I was getting ready for the Kelly File, I'd have on CNN and I'd watch a lot of their shows. And I like a lot of the anchors over there. But my view is CNN became the thing Trump said they were and they weren't, and now they are. But now they're indistinguishable from MSNBC.
But you have to admit, it's very hard to cover a guy like Trump who does awful things.
Yeah.
Oh, you do agree?
No, I agree. Yes, of course.
Okay. Well, then you're going to look left-wing.
No,
because you're saying, you know what?
wrong.
In a recent and particularly charged appearance on Real Time with Bill Maher, Megyn Kelly seized the spotlight and delivered a bold, unflinching challenge to Maher's well-known takes on a range of cultural and political topics. Known for his sharp wit and often controversial commentary, Maher typically commands a supportive audience and rarely finds himself on the defensive. However, Kelly's presence disrupted that usual dynamic. From the moment she engaged, it was clear she came prepared not to merely participate, but to confront. Throughout the discussion, Kelly took direct aim at several of Maher's woke-leaning talking points, offering pointed critiques that cut through the usual banter of the show. She forcefully countered his positions on hot-button issues such as cancel culture, political correctness, and identity politics, topics that frequently animate Maher's monologues. Rather than conceding ground or softening her perspective, Kelly doubled down, articulating her concerns about what she views as a pervasive culture of censorship and ideological conformity. What made the exchange particularly noteworthy was how Kelly's arguments didn't just resonate with a segment of the audience, they seemed to momentarily shift the entire atmosphere in the studio. Typically, Maher's crowd is aligned with his worldview, offering laughter, applause, and agreement at key moments. But during this conversation, Kelly's unapologetic defense of free speech and criticism of progressive overreach appeared to strike a chord. At several points, her rebuttals drew visible reactions, whether through applause or the crowd's silence, that suggested she had earned their attention if not their agreement. For Maher, who often navigates cultural debates with a combination of humor and sarcasm, Kelly's unwavering stance seemed to throw him off balance. Rather than maintaining his usual command of the conversation, he found himself parrying her challenges, occasionally facing pushback not only from his guest, but also from an audience that seemed more receptive to Kelly's critiques than expected. This rare shift in dynamics underscored the power of Kelly's delivery. By refusing to cede ground and articulating her points with clarity and conviction, she managed to momentarily turn Maher's own platform into a space for open confrontation, forcing uncomfortable questions, highlighting contradictions, and demonstrating that even in familiar territory, dominant narratives are not immune to challenge.
So I've heard you say media is broken. What do you mean by that? Where do you go with that?
I mean, you know it's true, right? Like, it just, the media is so messed up right now.
Yes.
It's disheartening to me. And I've felt this way for a long time, not just since Trump. And I know, Trump's rhetoric is too strong, the enemy of the people and all that. And I know why he says it. There are still amazing journalists out there doing great work, but the media is completely biased. And what's happened now, as I look at the country...
Biased politically?
Oh, 100%. Yes. They're biased.
You work for Fox News.
Oh,
I think there's another side to the story.
Of course, Bill, of course. But Fox News was born and did so well because it was the only voice offering the other side of the coin. And the rest of the media was biased toward the left.
You know what the media is biased towards? Money. They're biased toward money and conflict because that's what sells. I don't think... I was watching the Virginia rally this week. There was a gun rally. It was peaceful. And you could see how disappointed the media was that the Civil War didn't break out.
Right, of course.
That's what I think the media bias is, more than politics.
No, because, look, I think there was a liberal slant in the media even before Trump got in there, but he went in there and now, like, take CNN. He came in there and said, CNN is completely biased to the left. They're lefties. They're completely against me. And my take on it was, in the beginning, he was wrong. CNN wasn't that way. I used to watch CNN all the time when I was at Fox. When I was getting ready for the Kelly File, I'd have on CNN and I'd watch a lot of their shows. And I like a lot of the anchors over there. But my view is CNN became the thing Trump said they were and they weren't, and now they are. Now they're indistinguishable from MSNBC.
But you have to admit, it's very hard to cover a guy like Trump who does awful things.
Yeah.
Oh, you do agree?
No, I agree. Yes, of course.
Okay, well, then you're going to look left-wing.
No.
Because you're saying, you know
totally
what?
wrong.
This perspective underscores a central criticism of today's increasingly polarized media landscape, with a particular focus on CNN's trajectory. While Megyn Kelly has never shied away from holding Donald Trump to account and has frequently voiced criticisms of him, her recent appearance on 10 Real Time with Bill Maher introduced a more layered critique, one aimed squarely at the media itself. Kelly argued that, ironically, CNN had morphed over time into the very caricature Trump often accused them of being, an overly partisan, biased network with a clear political agenda. Surprisingly, her observation resonated deeply with Maher's audience, even drawing applause, a rare acknowledgement from a crowd typically aligned with Maher's perspective. The shift in CNN's coverage didn't occur in a vacuum. As Trump's political rise reshaped the American media ecosystem, major outlets like CNN and others began to adopt more overtly polarized coverage. The driving force behind this wasn't necessarily a change in journalistic standards, but a realization. Consistently casting Trump in an overwhelmingly negative light, often veering into sensationalism or selective reporting, became a lucrative formula. In parallel, the same outlets seemed to pull punches when covering figures like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, creating a lopsided portrayal of political events and characters. It became clear that outrage sells, and vilifying certain figures while shielding others drove clicks, ratings, and engagement. At the heart of this phenomenon lies the concept of audience capture. Once networks recognized how profitable it was to stoke division and sensationalize coverage, they became trapped by their own success. The need to continuously feed their audience's expectations led to increasingly extreme narratives. During the Trump administration, this strategy was particularly effective, as every controversy, gaffe, or policy decision could be spun to maintain a steady stream of outrage. But like any feedback loop, it created a dependency. Stepping back, offering nuance, or balancing coverage risked alienating a loyal audience accustomed to high-octane, emotionally charged content. This is the dynamic Kelly highlighted on Maher's show, and the audience's reaction suggested a growing awareness, even fatigue, with this relentless polarization. While Maher and Kelly may differ on many issues, there appeared to be common ground in acknowledging how toxic and exhausting the hyperpartisan media environment has become. It's not just conservatives or independents who feel this fatigue. Even traditionally liberal viewers, like those in Maher's studio, seem increasingly skeptical of media outlets that prioritize engagement over balanced journalism.
I totally disagree with you. Look, when I was on doing the Kelly File, primetime, 9 p.m. on Fox News, he was attacking me for 9 months straight, right? Saying outrageous things. It took everything in me to go out on the set night after night and not make it personal and not have a vendetta against him and not be overly harsh on him because of what he was doing to me and my family. But I did it. It's doable. You just have to remember, it's not about you.
Right.
It's about the audience and the truth.
So here, okay, and you know what? What's great is, I keep saying all year long, you can hate Trump, you can't hate the people who like him.
Yeah, I've heard you say that.
We can disagree and still be friends. We have a lot in common. We were both shit-canned by major broadcast networks. I was shit-canned by ABC. You were shit-canned by NBC.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing in the world that happens to you. And I tell you, when that happened to you, I was angry for you. Oh. Honestly. Because this cancel culture, it's so funny. When they do polls, they find like 80 to 90% of the people in this country hate this shit.
Yep.
Even liberals hate this shit.
That's
they
right.
hate this is one reason why Trump got elected. Because people 100%. Hate political correctness so much that they'll even take it in the mouth of a werewolf like that when he's not politically correct.
Because he's a fighter, and they see this is the package that comes in.
Right. But when individual instances come up, everybody is so afraid to stand up. You even apologized for something that I didn't think was that awful. It's like, why can't you just say, okay, I was a little inartful about how I expressed that. My bad. I'm sorry. Move on with our lives. Instead of, no, you have to go away for all time. Well, who are these perfect people who have never made any mistake?
The notion that CNN's leftward shift was simply a reaction to Donald Trump's unpredictable, polarizing presidency is, as Megyn Kelly aptly argued during her recent appearance on AEL Time with Bill Maher, more of an excuse than an explanation. Maher suggested that Trump's behavior forced networks like CNN to recalibrate their approach, framing their increasingly partisan tone as an inevitable response to an unconventional political figure. However, Kelly pushed back hard on that narrative, asserting that the shift wasn't something CNN was cornered into, it was a calculated decision, rooted in profit motives and the powerful lure of audience capture. According to Kelly, the media's move toward sensationalism and polarization isn't solely about Trump or his presidency. It's about ratings. And it's just about ratings. And it's about ratings. It's about cultivating a loyal, emotionally engaged audience that can be counted on to return day after day, as long as their biases are reinforced and their outrage is stoked. While Trump may have been the spark that accelerated this strategy, Kelly emphasized that the underlying force at play is the relentless pursuit of higher viewership numbers and ultimately greater revenue. Importantly, Kelly's criticism isn't rooted in any kind of loyalty to Trump. She has been openly critical of him on numerous occasions. Yet she recognized that blaming Trump entirely for the media's behavior allows outlets like CNN and MSNBC to avoid accountability. Instead, she argued, these networks made conscious editorial choices to frame stories in ways that align with their audience's expectations, often at the expense of balance, accuracy, and journalistic integrity. It's a broader media issue, not merely a reflection of Trump's presidency. Maher, usually the one pointing out media excesses, found himself challenged by Kelly's perspective. And the reaction from his audience, which showed moments of agreement with her points, suggested a growing recognition that the problem runs deeper than one politician. It's about an industry model that thrives on division, sensationalism, and narrative-driven coverage, regardless of which political figure is in the spotlight. What's your take on Kelly's remarks? Do you think she effectively dismantled Maher's argument? And do you agree that the media's pivot toward polarization is more about business strategy than Trump himself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next discussion. Thanks for watching and for being part of the conversation.